A day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life, whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm pretty much like all these guys today. When I found out I'd been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I just couldn't believe it, even though our 10-year-old son, Justin, had promised me this was my year. You know, I'm now the 10th Steeler from the Super Bowl 13 team to be enshrined. But you could have won a lot of money in '78 if you bet that I would be one of those 10. And finally, I'd like to say a special thank you to 10 men. It was a small group of men, just 10 of them, if you can believe that, 10 African-American assistant coaches in the entire NFL. Many of them never got the chance to move up the coaching ladder like I did, but they were so important to the progress of this league. Those men were like my dad. They didn't complain about the lack of opportunities. They found ways to make the situation better. So tonight, as I join Fritz Pollard as the second African-American coach in the Hall of Fame, I feel like I'm representing those 10 men and all the African-American coaches who came before me and paved the way, and I thank them very, very much. The Lord has truly led me on a wonderful journey through 31 years in the NFL. Through some temporary disappointments to some incredible joys. I cherish every single relationship that I was able to make over those 31 years, and I'll always be grateful to the National Football League for giving me my life's work. Thank you, and God bless.
All right, and with that, I'd like to welcome everybody to another edition of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, powered by Extreme Networks. And today featuring, as you can see, Coach Tony Dungy. My name is Jake Ray. I'm not coming to you from the Hall of Fame again. I'm back in my home studio right here in my my dining room, not my home studio. So happy to be coming to you guys today, provide you an opportunity for a look into the career both on and off the field of one of the greatest coaches to ever put that zip-up jacket on, put that headset on, and coach from the sidelines. And I said, my name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Our mission at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. Those values we celebrate are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, all of which affected our Hall of Famers' lives, both on and off the field. And as you'll learn today, these values had a huge impact on not only the coach, Coach Dungy, but also the former players. So before we turn things over to Coach Dungy, I have a few thank yous and some special shout outs I'd like to throw out there. First of all, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks. They provide us a lot of great opportunities. They provide us the opportunity today to have Coach Dungy connect in and connect out to everybody across the world and get the opportunity to hear those inside stories. So I'd like to thank Extreme Networks, and thanks for all the great work they do for us at the Hall of Fame, as well as schools across the country. I'd like also to thank our students we have tuned in today. I know this is a different learning environment than you're used to. You're not in your classroom with your teacher. You're at home with mom and dad, who are your teachers now, or maybe grandma and grandpa, whoever that might be. So we're thankful for you for tuning in today, because without you guys, the program doesn't happen. You're the one with the questions. I'm excited to see what those questions are, and I'm sure Coach Dungy is as well. And I like to give a special shout out to all those college and high school seniors out there, that class of 2020. I know this is a very difficult time. You guys don't get to go through a lot of the things that seniors get to go through, whether that be prom or graduation, or if you're a spring sport or you're in the choir, your big choir concerts in the spring. I know you guys are missing out on a lot of great opportunities this spring. So I want to give a special shout out to those. I know my cousin is a graduating senior this year. I know Coach Dungy, as you'll probably hear, has a daughter who's a senior in high school. So it's a really different time, and we just want to give a special shout out to all those people all those kids who are graduating this spring. So that's enough from me. We're now going to turn things over to class of 2016 Hall of Famer, Mr. Tony Dungy. Hey, Coach, are you there?
Hey, I am, Jake, and thank you very much. Thanks for putting this on and helping us out. I want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in. I'm very much like you. I actually have 8 kids at home, my wife and I. They're all going through their online learning right now. We're taking a lunch break at 12 o'clock here Eastern time. And as Jake mentioned, our daughter, Jade, is 3 weeks away from her graduation. She's not going to be able to go through the ceremony, didn't have a lot of the things that seniors should have. So we feel badly for her. But one thing I want to encourage all of you seniors, especially, you've got life in front of you. And it may be a little disappointment not to have your actual graduation, but you've got so much to look forward to. And this isn't the end of the road for you at all. This is just the beginning. So look at it that way. We're so glad you could be with us today. We at the Pro Football Hall of Fame talk about today how you can utilize those things in your life to reach your goals and your dreams. I can remember when I was 17 years old, sitting in my senior year of high school, wondering, I never would have dreamed I would go on to the University of Minnesota and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Indianapolis Colts and Super Bowls. But that just shows you we don't know what's going to happen. If you push and persevere and dream, the world is at your fingertips. If you let the Lord guide you, you can do anything. So I just want to encourage you, and I'm excited to be with you here today. We're going to have some fun and try to answer your questions.
You know, you're right. Something you stood there, and a quote that comes to mind, you know, every ending creates a new beginning. And this ending just is a little bit different than what we're normally seeing. So first question I want to ask is, we talked about those values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. We know those values make great people. We know those values make great athletes. How do those values play into the game of football and not only make great players on the field, but great men of character and women of character off the field?
You know, that's what wins in the National Football League. Those things that you mentioned, character and how you build your team, that's what wins in life. And I know I've had a lot of young men, I've talked on Zoom calls to in this upcoming draft? What do you want? And to me, it's so much more than height, weight, and speed and how strong a person is. What kind of teammate are they going to be? Are they going to buy into us as a group? Are they going to want to sacrifice for the good of the team? That's what you want to find out. Those are the kind of players you want to draft. And if you're a young person trying to build your career, wherever it's going to go, whether it's sports, athletics, business, teaching, doesn't matter. Are you going to sacrifice and be the best that you can be and help other people grow? And that's what makes winners on and off the field.
That's good. The segue is great into my next question. As you mentioned, the NFL draft is this week. It's a big moment, and obviously it's going to be a little bit different again, but everything is now for those college players who are going to be that next generation of great athletes in the NFL. You mentioned a little bit about character being an important part of what these coaches and administrators are looking for in the game of football. Is there a specific trait or quality in a college player that you're looking for when you go to draft them?
I always wanted to know, first of all, was a player willing to work hard? Because that's what it takes. You can be very, very talented, but when you get perfectly. When they don't go well, how does he handle an injury? How does he handle a loss? How does he handle maybe getting demoted to second string? Is he willing to work hard, or is he going to put his head down and say, oh, this isn't fair? Those are the things that you want to know. And you'd be surprised what lengths NFL teams go to find that out. We would send our scouts on campus. Yes, we looked at film and we talked to the strength coach and the conditioning coach, but we also would always talk to the academic counselors. We try to talk to professors. We talk to a lot of their teammates. I wanted to go back and talk to people that knew them in junior high and high school, because I really want to know, what kind of person am I getting? What kind of teammate is this young man going to be? That is the important thing. So those character traits, that translates into championship teams.
So while we're on the topic of the draft, you've obviously been through a few of them in your time in the NFL, both as a player and as a coach. So, being a player, what words of advice would you have for somebody who may or may not have their name called here at the end of this week? Is there any specific advice, going through it as a player, that you would like to pass on to that next group of guys?
Well, you said it earlier that this day coming up for them, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the draft, it's not the end. It's they should. And it's going to be a little bit disappointing. There's going to be people like me who don't get drafted at all. I waited out. There were actually 12 rounds when I came out of college, and I didn't get drafted in any of those rounds. And yes, it is a downer. It's disappointing, but that's not the end of the story. You write the story by how hard you work and what you do once you get to the team that you're at. And people like John Randall, who I coached at Minnesota, who didn't get drafted because people thought he was too short to be a defensive lineman. He ends up becoming a Hall of Fame player because he outworked everybody that got drafted in front of him. So that would be my message to people. Hey, enjoy it. If you got drafted where you wanted, celebrate, but don't let that stop you from working hard. If you didn't get drafted as high as you thought, don't think that's the end of the line or that means you can't succeed. There are so many guys in the Hall of Fame who weren't high.
All right, Coach, I do want to apologize to our Facebook crowd. It looks like we're coming in and out here. Could be my connection, could be Coach's connection. But, that's technology. It's only as good as it is. So we do apologize for that. We're going to keep trudging through this. So, Coach, if there's anything that we miss, I'll come back to it.
Okay.
But we'll just keep rolling. So, as a coach, you kind of talk on the player side. And also see from the coach's side, what is that draft night like? And you see videos of war rooms and everything that goes on inside that room. As a head coach in the NFL, what is draft night like?
The preparation is really what makes it. And there aren't a lot of war room strategies that happen when you're on the clock. Most of that has happened in the weeks leading up to it. And you have a lot of discussions about, well, if this happens and these two players are here, we're going to take this guy. If we get a chance to trade up, we want to go after this guy. But much of that is done the night before. And I know when my first draft, Rich McKay was the general manager of the Bucks, and we walked through a lot of different scenarios in that week leading up to it. So you feel pretty comfortable going in. There's always going to be curveballs, and there's going to be guys that you have your eye on that you don't get, and there are going to be guys that you never thought were going to be there. I remember one of the first drafts I was involved in when I was a young assistant coach in Pittsburgh in 1987. I was coaching the defensive backs, and there were a number of guys, and Coach Knowles sent me out to
All right, Coach, you froze up again on me. We'll give it a few more seconds here, see if you come back. All right, hey, you're back, Coach.
Hey, you
You're back.
lost me. Yep.
Yep, you're back.
I have 8 kids trying to get on the same internet.
Hey, that's what we got to do. So no, definitely understand. You were talking a little bit about the planning that goes in there, and talking about different players, and if one's there, we take him. If not, well, where do we go? So kind of talk a little bit more on what that.
Yeah, I think you missed my story about Rod Woodson.
Yes, that would be it.
I was a young coach in Pittsburgh. Coach Noel gave me a list of the top defensive backs. Rod Woodson was the number 1 guy in 1987. He said, don't even go look at him because we're picking 10th. He's going to be in the top 3 for sure. I didn't go scout Rod. And sometimes you get disappointed. You'll have your eye on a guy, he's right there, and someone moves up right in front of you to select them. So you always have to have kind of a backup plan. But I know for me, it was a lot of prayer and Lord, just send the right guys to us.
Yep. Sometimes that's what you got to do. So we'll move on, to some other talk, but I want to read off a list here. This is some of the guys, that may sound familiar that Coach Dungy was involved in drafting. Famous fullback, the position that's starting to come back a little bit. Mike Allstott with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Warwick Dunn was a running back down there in Tampa as well. And some of the Colts, he took Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis, both great defensive ends for the Indianapolis franchise. Running back Joseph Adai. And then this one I picked out because it is special to us here in Northeast Ohio. You took a guy from a little tiny school called University of Mount Union. That's just right down the road here, wide receiver Pierre Garcon, who went on to one time lead the league in receptions when he was not with the Colts, but with the Redskins. So a lot of great players.
Yeah, Pierre was really an amazing story. Bill Polin was our general manager, and he knew someone that had gone to school in Mount Union and said, hey, this receiver here, he's dynamite. You got to look at the tape. It was a small school, wasn't a lot of film, but we had a little inside information. After Pierre, and he blossomed, and he's one of those guys that you would say, we talked about earlier, hey, he was drafted late, but he ended up having a great career because he worked hard and he didn't let that draft position define him.
Yeah, it's cool. We take pride in it being from Northeast Ohio. Ohio State, all these big schools get all the notoriety, but when we see a kid, that went to school 5 minutes down the road, especially from where I live, my brother's a Mount Union alum, so we really take pride in seeing our Purple Raiders there in the league. So, anybody that knows you as a person knows Coach Dungy. That faith is a huge part of who you are. Why has this been an important aspect of your life? And how have you kind of taken some of the lessons you've learned growing up and applied them to your career in the NFL?
I'll tell you what, Jake, I was really blessed going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. In our first meeting there, Coach Noel, our coach, Chuck Noel, he told us, hey, welcome to the National Football League. Make football your profession. Make it your occupation, but don't make it your life. If you put everything into football and don't worry about how to live and grow and be part of the community, you're going to regret it when you finish. Art Rooney Sr. was our owner, and he, again, said, hey, congratulations on making the team, being a Pittsburgh Steeler, but it means more than just going out and playing 3 hours a week on Sundays. We want you to be part of the community and live here and be a great player. So that lesson came across to me, and I grew as a young man. I grew spiritually. I grew as a Christian, and that helped me just as much as anything. So when I got in position to be a coach and mentor people and help young men, I wanted to help them grow spiritually as well as becoming better athletes.
A lot of people, you read a lot of things about Coach Tony Dungy, and they say you're a player coach. You're going to be upfront, you're going to be honest, and you're going to treat your players just like they're your best friend, just like they're your son. Why was this an important goal of yours in teaching this next generation of young athletes? Some are 20, some are almost 40. How did those lessons, and did they differ for player ages, or was it just one constant message across the board?
Well, I wanted to help my guys grow. And someone told me very early on when I got into coaching, if you just help your players develop as athletes, you're only doing half the job. You got to help them grow as young men and women. You got to help them grow as people. And that was always important to me. So I tried to develop those relationships and build those relationships with everybody that I coach, whether it was a position coach, as the coordinator, or the head coach. Hey, I want to be part of helping you be the best that you can be. And some of the strongest relationships I have now are with players who may not have been Hall of Fame superstar players, but they helped us win, and they grew as people. And I just cherish those times. So I think that's the job of a coach, is to help your players be the best people they can be.
Yeah, it's great. It goes to show it develops those guys. We talk so much at the Hall of Fame about those values and how important they are, when you're learning the X's and O's, but those values are going to be so much more important, when your career's over and when you have to go back out, quote unquote, into the real world, coaches like yourself, I'll prepare those guys. And like you said, you're close with guys who aren't Hall of Famers. Now, you've coached, obviously, a fair share of them. But it's cool to see that you develop relationships, with the whole gambit of people you've coached and worked with.
Yeah, no doubt. And, to me, that's what it's all about. And I can remember the first meeting I had as head coach of the Buccaneers, and I talked to the team about making a difference. And yeah, we want.
Coach, it looks like we lost you again. You're
And
there. You are. You're back.
Okay, yeah. I was telling the story about Derek Brooks developing a relationship with kids at the Boys and Girls Club, wanting them to grow. And he didn't want to just be a great player and a Hall of Fame player on the field. He wanted to help them off the field. And now, 25 years later, many of those kids are doing great things in the community because of him reaching out and going that extra mile.
And you mentioned that and he went it further than that, and opened his own school down there in that area.
Got a charter high school right now. Yeah.
Go that extra mile, and the impact that you can leave is phenomenal. Got a question here on Facebook. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, feel free, throw a question there into the comment section. We'll try our best to get it into the program. But this one's from an avid watcher, an avid guy who tunes in for these programs. It's Jay. He's actually watching us all the way over from the United Kingdom. And he said, is it true during a game, you once intercepted a pass on defense, threw an and then not only, but then went in and played quarterback in the same game. All right, Coach, it looks like you froze on us again. Wait, as soon as I say it, you always come back.
All right. Can you see me there?
Yep, we got you.
Okay.
We got you.
Yeah, I don't know
so
if you heard the answer.
Your quarterback debut in the NFL.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know if you heard the answer, but yeah, I was a defensive back, played safety, intercepted a pass in the first quarter. Terry Bradshaw got hurt. Our backup quarterback got hurt. And I finished the game at quarterback and threw an interception. So I'm the last person in history to intercept the pass and throw an interception in the same game.
It's kind of a good stat. Kind of not a good stat, but you got to Tony Dungy, defensive back, is in there / quarterback is in the record books for sure. So
yeah.
you play quarterback. You had your moment of, we'll call it glory there in the game in the NFL. You also coached a guy who a lot of people know. Next year he's eligible for the Hall of Fame. I know I don't have a vote, but if I did, this guy would get it. You coached Peyton Manning in his career. One, we know how great Peyton was and just what the football mind that he has, and he definitely had a Hall of Fame career. But what was it like to coach, this, what some people call a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback?
He was a real joy to coach because all the things that you talked about and you preach as a coach, teamwork, hard work, perseverance, sacrifice, he demonstrated all that. And so when you could talk about it as a coach, his teammates would look at it and say, yeah, that's the way to do it. He was just exceptional. I loved coaching him. And I'll tell you a story, kind of just give you the Peyton Manning in essence. My last year coaching, he's already won 3 MVP awards. We've already won a Super Bowl. We draft Anthony Gonzalez from Ohio State University.
Yep.
It's this time of year. Ohio State is still in school. They're not going to be out of school until the end of June. Peyton Manning, 2 days a week, would drive from Indianapolis to Columbus, Ohio, take the playbook, show it to Anthony, work with him on the chalkboard, go out and throw for an hour, and then drive back to Indianapolis. 8-hour day just to help Anthony Gonzalez get ready for training camp. That's what made him special, and that's why he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's and you see they just released, ESPN did these great specials on Peyton, and kind of touching a little bit on his career, but more importantly, you kind of got to see the man behind the face mask and see Peyton Manning, the guy, and it was really cool to see that. So we definitely hope to see you. I like I said, I don't have a vote, but I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty good shot.
I think he's going to make it.
And while we're on, big time quarterback names, people know you used to coach the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers just signed another pretty well-named quarterback in Tony Dungy. Your Indianapolis Colts just signed Phillip Rivers. You see these older quarterbacks going to different homes to kind of not rejuvenate their careers because they both had really great careers on the field. But when a quarterback like that moves teams, what kind of goes into that? And do you see these guys being able to transition from their old team to their new team and still keep that level of success?
Yeah, I think the new team is looking for just what we were talking about. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for direction. They're looking for that guy who can elevate everybody else's play. Peyton did that when he went from Indianapolis to Denver. And you saw all these receivers in Denver come alive, and they went to a Super Bowl. I know Tom Brady's going to do that. His work ethic, he's going to bring that down here to the Buccaneer players. They've got some real fine offensive talent. They're going to play better than they ever had. Phillip Rivers knows the system. Frank Reich coached him a little bit. He's going to do well in Indianapolis. But more than anything, those guys are going to bring that leadership. I think it's going to be great to see.
Now, we talked a little bit about, your coaching career. Is there a specific moment where Coach Tony Dungy said, you know what, I want to be a coach? Was there anything that impacted that decision, or was that just the next step for you, a former player, then kind of stepping into that coaching role?
Yeah, I really think it was the Lord kind of orchestrating all of that, Jake. I played um, offense in high school and college. I went to Pittsburgh and became a defensive player. I got traded from the Steelers after we won a Super Bowl to San Francisco 49ers. It was Bill Walsh's first year. He was putting together his team. We only won 2 games that year, so I went from a 14-2 team to a 2-14 team, and I saw both ends of the spectrum. Um, Coach Noel called me back 2 years later and said, "I'd love you to come on my coaching staff. I think you have a communication gift. You know both sides of the ball. You're going to be a very good coach." And it just clicked. But I think the Lord kind of had that set out for me, that path laid out and adjusted. And I'm glad it happened that way.
So I'm looking through some of the questions here. Got a pretty cool question here. This comes from, let me find it here. This comes from Morgan, and this is from her kids. It says, "What is the craziest thing you have ever done?"
The craziest thing I've ever done. Well, I did some.
Looks like we lost you again there. Right before you were about to tell a great story, I felt like.
Okay. The craziest thing and the worst thing I probably ever did was I quit my high school team when I was a senior. I was upset at the coach because I felt like he didn't treat one of my teammates, one of our African American teammates, right. And so I quit. And that could have been the worst decision I ever made. My junior high assistant principal talked me into going back on the team. And if he hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be here today. So sometimes we can let our emotions get the best of us. And that was kind of a crazy decision.
Now, fast forwarding back to becoming a coach, your career ends, you step away from the game, but then you step into a new role and working on the commentating side of the game and the analysis. What was that transition like? And like we said before, was that kind of just the next step for Tony Dungy?
It's really weird because I didn't really have a lot of experience in the broadcasting side of it. I was a guy who tried to stay under the radar. I didn't have a radio show when I was a head coach or a TV show.
All right, we've got you froze again. See if you pop back up here. All right,
It'll come back.
Oh, there you're back.
Okay, there
you're
you
back
go.
now.
Yeah, I was saying I really wasn't media friendly as a coach, but Dick Ebersol from NBC said, "Hey, I want you to come on Sunday night, explain to our audience what's happening, talk football, and make it so housewives and young kids can understand it." And I've done it for 12 years now. It's been a lot of fun. I never would have imagined it at the time, but I love it.
It's cool because you're being in the game, a player and a coach. You get all these different experiences, and kind of stepping into that commentating role. It's a whole new realm. You're not just focused on the Bucs or the Colts and the opponent or the next week's opponent. You're looking at 16 games a week. Highlights and insights, and as a football fan, it's really cool to see the insights from a Hall of Fame coach. Almost legitimizes everything that we're watching and we're hearing. So as a football fan, we definitely appreciate the transition that you made and giving us an insight to the game in between the lines for sure. All right, looks like we got you froze again, but I'm going to go on to my next question here, and hopefully we get you back before that. So one of the things we do at the Hall of Fame is we like to really focus on, what the Hall of Fame means. Currently, right now, there are 346 members in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that have been enshrined because of their play or their coaching ability or their administrative ability, both on and off the field. And Coach Dungy is obviously one of those guys, one of the 346 best to ever do it. And when you're enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you get 3 iconic pieces. You get the bronze bust, you get the Kay Jewelers Ring of Excellence, and you get that Haggard gold jacket. All 3 kind of symbols that show you're a Hall of Famer. Now, looks like we got Coach Dungy back here. So after you were enshrined and you get to put that gold jacket on, you get to put that ring on, you get to hold that bronze bust. Has there been a moment that stood out to you as above the others as, wow, I'm in the Hall of Fame. I'm a part of this fraternity, a team I can never be cut from, a team they can never fire me from. What is that special moment to you?
Well, I tell you, the special moment for me was Thursday night, and it was actually the gold jacket ceremony. And the way they do it is you are introduced, you stand on one end, and then all of the Hall of Famers are waiting to welcome you. And you walk through the line, and then they put your gold jacket on. And I remember standing there and looking and seeing Lem Barney, who I grew up in Detroit area, and watching Lem Barney play and saying, my gosh, Lem Barney's down there. And then Joe Green and Mel Blount and some of my teammates, and then Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp, guys that I had coached. And I remember thinking, man, I'm going into this group. It is so unbelievable. So just walking through all those guys, shaking hands, and then putting on that jacket, that was the special moment for me.
Is there a kind of a sense of relief, or like, oh, that type moment when you get to put that jacket on, or you get to stand up there and unveil your bust, like, I made it. My career, it was worth it almost. Was there a moment for you for that, or was it just slipping that jacket on? It's like, all right, I'm here, I made it.
Yeah, that was just slipping the jacket on was surreal. I think the moment was getting the phone call, because for me, it was my third time around. And the first two times you kind of get excited, you think you might make it. And then they call you and say, hey, it was close, but you didn't make it. Well, the third year in 2016, my 13-year-old son, he was 10 at the time. And he said, Dad, you're going to make it. This is your year. I know it's your year. I got to go with you. So we're there. And I'm afraid that he's going to be disappointed again. And then Mr. Baker knocks on the door and says, you're a Hall of Famer. That was the moment where I said, oh, I can't believe it. Yeah, it was really special.
Yeah, cool. And it's always cool to see, our Hall of Famers get that knock on the door from our president, David Baker. And then to see everybody celebrate with their families is something very, very cool, very special. Yeah. One of the greatest perks of my job is being able to get to kind of have a behind the scenes, access to that. So I got another question here from Facebook, and we'll do this one plus one more. This is from Scott. Scott Orr on Facebook asked, when you're a coach, you got to get guys to buy in. How, as a head coach, get your players, once you make that transition from Tampa Bay to Indianapolis, to buy into the Coach Dungy system, and then eventually get that team to the Super Bowl and hoist the Lombardi Trophy?
Yeah, no, you're right. That is the key thing. There are a lot of great systems. You can have a lot of great plays, a lot of good ideas, but you've got to get the guys to buy in and believe. Going to Indianapolis, it was a little bit easier actually because I had a track record by then. And they said, oh, well, we saw this work at Tampa. But I remember when I got to Tampa and trying to explain to them how we're going to do it. Hey, this is going to be important. We're going to build on character. We're going to do the right things. Off the field is important. And I called in every one of our veteran players, and I met with them individually and explained it to them. And I told them, I need you to believe in this, and I need you to buy in, and you've got to sell it to the other guys. And I think those individual talks, and not just in front of the group, but saying, hey, Warren Sapp, I need you to be on board with this. If we're going to be a championship team, you have to be a leader. And I went right down the line with every single guy, and I think that really helped.
Yeah, and you got to be able to look to those veteran players, and we talked about how you lead guys who are 20 versus guys who are older in the league, and that's when you kind of look to that older generation who are in the league and say, hey, you know what, we need you to buy in, so all these other young players can buy in. It's a great story, and it shows not only what kind of coach you were, but then what kind of person off the field you were. Did you see throughout your career any of your tendencies from either or kind of influencing either what type of coach you were, or B, what type of person you were off the field? Your tendencies as a dad, or as a son, or as that head coach?
Yeah, I think I was really a product of my environment, and my dad really led me and taught me, and he made it important for me to think about what I was doing and make decisions and figure things out. He never would just tell me the answer, do this or do that. He'd say, well, what do you think is going to make the situation better? How do you think you should handle this? And so for my players, I want to do the same thing, encourage them to think about it and be part of the solution and buy into it.
All right, so we got about time. Looks like we got time for about one more question here. Yep, you're okay. I still got you. I saw you blink. So we still got
Okay,
you
yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah.
One last question. I like to end every program like this because it does give us a good viewpoint on your leadership tendencies and the type of person you are. Is, you know, what is one piece of advice that you would give to anybody who tuned in today? It can be, you know, mom and dad. It could be, you know, John Doe, the fan who's watching on their lunch break. It can be all these kids who we have tuned in. What is one piece of advice you'd like everybody to take away from today?
Well, I'm going to give you two, Jake. Number one is something that I learned very early on from my dad. Don't let anybody else define you. Don't let anybody limit you. You set your goals as high as you want them and then do what it takes to achieve them. Don't let people tell you can't do this or you can't do that or you could never be an NFL coach because there's never been an African-American coach before. You could never go to a Super Bowl. Don't buy into that. Hey, set those goals high and then do everything you can to achieve it. And then the second thing I would say is don't think that success in your career is the most important thing. My mom's favorite verse in the Bible is Matthew 16:26. What would it profit a man if you gain the whole world but forfeit your soul? So work just as hard off the field and being a great person as you do on the field or having a great career. Having a great career is not the most important thing. Being a great person is.
I can't think of a better way to end it. You know, that verse is one that sticks out to me as well. It's one of my favorites. So with that, I'd like to wrap up this installment of the Heart of a Hall of Famer series powered by Extreme Networks, featuring class of 2016 member and gold jacket, Mr. Tony Dungy. Coach, I want to thank you for doing this. I know I told you before we started, we've been really wanting to get Coach Dungy in on this program, and so we appreciate you taking time out of your day. Sounds like time out of being a teacher to your kids to talk to us today. From myself, all of our youth and education team, all the way up to our president, David Baker, I want to thank you for everything you've done for the game of football, everything you've done for the Hall of Fame. You know, I like to say that the game of football wouldn't be like it is without our Hall of Famers' influence. You know, everything that you gave back to the game, we greatly appreciate that, and we greatly appreciate everything you gave to us, to the Hall of Fame. So, but before we go, I do have a couple quick announcements. If you want more from the Pro Football Hall of Fame or just that fix of football news stories, I know we got the draft coming up this weekend. We're going to get some football on the TV. Stay tuned to all of our Hall of Fame social media channels. We'll be giving you kind of a behind-the-scenes look at a different type of the NFL draft. You'll be able to listen to interviews. You'll be able to see some artifacts from previous NFL drafts. You'll be able to see a side of the draft you haven't really seen before. Also, I want to make sure you follow and subscribe to not only all of our social media channels, but to the Pro Football Hall of Fame's podcast, The Mission, hosted by my dear friend and my coworker, Mr. Jameer Howerton, who not only interviews gold jackets and hears stories for them, but also people from the NFL to kind of give you an inside access, an inside look on what the game of football feels and what the NFL draft is going to have coming up. So make sure you subscribe to all of our Hall of Fame social media channels. Give Jameer and the Mission podcast a subscribe. Hit that subscribe button on all the platforms where you can find podcasts. And then make sure you tune in, watch the NFL draft this coming weekend. So one last thank you, Coach Dungy. Thank you so much for tuning or for connecting in today. I know we had some technology issues, but we're going to power right through that. The message you gave was great, and we look forward to having you back in Canton, hopefully in August.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you, Jake.
All right, thanks, Coach. Everybody who tuned in, we'll see you and talk to you later. Thanks, everybody.